I don't care how high his walls are or how big his army is.
You want revenge?
Damn right I do!
My name is Tymon Smektala and I am Dying Light franchise director.
Tymon, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Dying Like the Beast is now just a matter of, I guess, weeks away, really.
Actually, it's 76 days. I counted today in the morning.
God, 76 days, you're now getting it into the hands of the people. How does that make you feel?
We are a little bit tired at the studio, but also very, very excited because we truly believe that Dying Light the Beast is the best Dying Light game that we have ever made. And I am confident to say that because the game uses the experience and the insights and the knowledge that we get from 10 years of working on the game, on the series. Dying Light is 10 years this year, and like we are very, 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 very happy that we can celebrate the anniversary with this release.
So you're counting down the days. What is the time focused on right now? Where are you putting your energies?
Basically, the last touches, the last polish, the last balance tweaks. We want to make sure that the game is as perfect as it can be on launch. So the whole content is locked, everything is there. We're just looking at every little bit, every mechanic, every enemy, every location, every quest, trying to see if we can squeeze a little bit more out of it.
Now, I just got hands-on with the game. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
There's a bit where you open up the safe house window, the rain is pouring, the trees are swaying in the wind. It felt like a real push forward from Dying Light 2. I was wondering if you could sort of talk us through some of your favorite advancements that are coming on the sort of tech and visual side.
Okay, so the visual advancements are an effect of actually two different areas. The first one is the tech advancements. I'm not the tech guy, so probably I will mess up some details, but our team has worked very, very hard on a lot of solutions, effects that make the world more immersive. It's mostly weather effects, the ones that you have noticed in the playthrough, how the rain feels, how it sounds also, the thunderstorms, how the wind pushes sways everything in the scene. So that's that. Another thing that was also a focus of our tech team is how the materials are rendered. So you see like a still object and it really feels steely. It feels like it's still from the real world. Also lightning, shadows, basically everything that makes you feel in the world, immersed in the shoes of the main character. And the other area that makes Dying Light the Beast so nice visually is the work of our art team. Compared to Dying Light 2 Stay Human, where a huge part of where we were aiming at the scale of the map, so we couldn't really focus on each and every detail. The Beast is different. With the Beast, we told our team to focus on every square inch of the map and every location, every interior. It's really a passionate work and kind of handwork of our artists. What I like most about Dying Light the Beast, and actually that's something that you might not have seen in the hands-on demo that you have played, is the representation of nature and like open fields. We have a biome which is called farmlands, and you go through the grain or grass, which is basically up to your belt, and it's really intense in color, and you get the freshness of the foliage. It's really, really amazing, and also a very nice contrast to what happens around you, because you are in this very beautiful place, but there are zombies around you. Like there's a threat behind every corner, and that juxtaposition is actually, I think, what makes Dying Light the Beast so unique. We realized as developers that open worlds are not about scale, are about you feeling of being there. So you can actually create a open world which is maybe not as expansive, but if it's handcrafted, as I said, if it feels real, the player's satisfaction of being in that world is much bigger. On the other hand, we were also trying to make Dying Light games, open world games where you are constantly playing, where you're constantly interacting with the controller, where you're constantly pushing buttons for a reason. If you look back at some of the other open world games, usually there are hubs of activities and in between them, not really much is happening. So in that regard, I would say Dying Light is probably one of the most dense open world games on the market. Of course, what helps us is that we are a game about zombies, and there are zombies everywhere. There are hordes, singular zombies that can be a threat at any given moment. So Dying Light is definitely a game, generally as a series, and The Beast as a particular game where you are constantly looking around you, where you're constantly in the zone, in the feel of all of it.
When I think back to Dying Light 2, like something I always remember is the sort of almost narrative Legos that were happening where you made choices and they had really sort of wide impacts on everything around you, whereas this feels again tighter and more driven. Like for the studio, for you, like how did it feel taking that sort of change in focus? Was it a big shock to the system, or?
Not really, because in a way we are getting back to what we known from Dying Light 1 and what we got used in Dying Light 1, but there's a very particular reason why we decided not to have choices and branching narrative in Dying Light The Beast, and the reason for that is that we wanted this to be a canon entry into a series. We are looking back at what happened to Kyle Crane in the first game, in Dying Light the following as well, and we want to tell the next chapter of this story. And even though we are a studio which really prides itself from being having this community-driven mindset of developing games, for this one, especially for the narrative, we wanted to make our own mark. We wanted to say something about character and also have the character at some point at the end of the game, because one thing that Dying Light The Beast does is also hints at the future of the series. So we really wanted to make sure that at the end of the game Kyle Crane is where we want him to be, so that's why we decided to kind of back down from the narrative choices of Dying Light to stay human.
What year did Dying Light 2 come out? That was
2022.
2022, so pretty fast turnaround from 2 to The Beast. And do you think that faster iteration time, that sort of speedier move into another Dying Light game, does that represent the direction that you want to move with the series in the future, or is it about doing something like The Beast that helps you sort of set the table for what comes next and then expand out again?
I think it's both. I think Dying Light The Beast really sets the table for what's going to happen for the series. It also is kind of like the climax of all of those 10 years that have happened. But at the other hand, I think we actually appreciated the work on Dying Light The Beast more than our work on Dying Light to Stay Human, and actually also Dying Light 1, because both games took us about 5 years to complete. It is a faster development. It's definitely a development which is kind of more... There's a little bit more pressure in it, but I think everyone at the studio appreciates that pace, because this allows the game to be much more consistent. And I think we actually working so long on Dying Light to Stay Human, we were in a way developing, but also finalizing the ideation for the game as we were developing it. But for Dying Light The Beast, we knew from the start exactly what we want to do, and this allowed us to go faster. And I think we really like that we can motivate ourselves and focus ourselves enough to be able to come up with a game of such scale and such intensity and such quality within basically, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. So I think this is an experience that we will take further to working on future Dying Light projects.
For you, when you're thinking about approaching something like Dying Light The Beast, like what are the key areas that you're identifying, and how do you work to keep your ambitions in check and get the thing out to market?
It's very hard to keep your ambitions in check, really, as a developer, and I very much appreciate the Obsidian stance on it, but I think they would also agree that it's very important, kind of also referring to your question, that you cannot be perfect in every area of the game, but there are areas of the game where you have to be perfect, because those are the areas of the game that make your game. And I think for Dying Light The Beast, and this also comes from our experience of working on Dying Light as a series, we know quite well where those areas for perfection are. And for us, this is the depiction of the main character, something that we cannot mess up to any extent, definitely, because our fans would kill us for that. But I think I think that's true for any game, basically. What you really need to focus on is the core gameplay, like the most important gameplay mechanics that make your game unique. So of course for us is the parkour, and for us it's also the melee combat and generally combat and the creativity of combat and your player's approach to combat. And one more thing, which is a little bit more technical, but one that we really focused a lot with Dying Light the Beast, is the physicality of the world and the combat. We really spent a lot of time on tweaking the reactions of zombies, how when they get hit, how do they react to different weapons, because this is the element that might be overlooked by many, but this is the element that make Dying Light games so special. So definitely the core gameplay mechanics of parkour and combat, the physicality of it, and the depiction of the main character are the areas where we focus the most.
I want to touch on combat because, you know, I think Dying Light's always been known as this game that has really heavy, gory melee combat. But something that I loved to see in the Beast was that weapons are back. What was your driving sort of factor for bringing guns back? Because if I'm remembering correctly, they 1 and 2.
Yep.
And players, I think if I'm remembering, in Dying Light 1 they didn't want guns.
Yes.
And then Reddit was very upset when Dying Light 2 came out and there were no guns like people had asked for. But they're back now. And
yeah, so I like to kind of explain it in a half-jokingly way, is that if Dying Light and guns were on Facebook, their relation status would be it's complicated, because it really is like that. We had some guns in Dying Light 1 because we had a history in FPS games. We did Call of Juarez, for example, so it was easy for us to have guns in Dying Light 1. But then the game was focused on melee combat. So what people were telling us, why did you even kind of bother to have the guns there? So for the second one, we didn't have the guns. And the first thing we heard after the release was, but where are the guns? And then we had to add the guns to the game, but the problem was that for Dying Light 2 we even specifically put that in the world building, in the lore, that there are no guns in this world. So this made it even more complicated for us, not only a dev challenge, but also a kind of lore and narrative challenge. We somehow managed to squeeze them in. So for Dying Light the Beast we decided, okay, like, let's give the players the guns if they want, but also let's focus on the guns so they really feel on par with melee combat in terms of how physical they are, how brutal they are, but also how balanced they are, so they don't feel too overpowered. And right now for us, the guns, the firearms, are basically another tool in players' toolbox. Dying Light games were also always about freedom of finding your own solutions to problem, going where you want to go, but also finding your own solutions to problem. And right now we want the guns to be just another kind of piece in your toolbox. You see an encounter with zombies, with Baron's men, with human enemies. You see a place where you want to go, but it's heavily guarded. So you can go in using your melee weapons. You can go in using firearms. They should offer the same kind of risk and reward level, but on a realized differently. And to be honest, I'm really proud of what we managed to achieve with the firearms here. I'm not saying we are Call of Duty, which is a game that focuses just on shooting, but I think we managed to have a very competent representation of shooting and guns in Dying Light the Beast. You have your survival horror games, but usually they are scripted, corridor kind of type of games. You have your open world games where are very action focused, but there is not that much space for this threat, for the tension, for the pressure. And I think we somehow managed to connect those two things. And for me, Dying Light is really a very unique blend of open world and survival horror with a mix of action thrown in. How we managed to do that, to be honest, I don't know. It's just a work of really passionate developers who are getting excited about what they do. It definitely takes a lot of careful balancing and sometimes even changing one value of I don't know, the speed of the animation or the damage dealt by a weapon can impact how much actiony or how much survivally it is. But still, I think the combination the combination that we have is quite tasteful, and I hope players will be able to appreciate that.
We mentioned that it's somehow been 10 years since Dying Light, which, you know, feels wild to me. You've been there through that journey and seen this franchise grow from this cool idea into something that has taken on a life of its own for many in the community. Like, what do you think the legacy of this franchise is?
I don't know, maybe it's too early to talk about legacy, to be honest. Though on the other hand, it's already 10 years, so maybe there is some legacy. I think one thing that Dying Light games always did, and the first one did it, and actually I'm a little bit surprised that it hasn't been picked up by other games to an extent I was expecting it to, is the amount of freedom that we put in players' hands. I think this is really something that, especially the first Dying Light game, was a game which really broke the usual walls of open world, also corridors and FPS games corridors. Like, Dying Light suddenly became this game where you can climb on everything, go anywhere you want, see the world from the other side, from any vantage point, and I think this is really the key selling point of Dying Light games. And then I started seeing this in other games, like, I don't know, Titanfall, Apex Legends, like Call of Duty even is going in that direction. So I think this is definitely one of the I hope, maybe it's a little bit blasphemous, but still I think it's one of the kind of Dying Light opened some mental drawers in other developers' heads. And I also think we also started a wave of first-person depiction of melee combat, which you also get more and more in many games. So definitely we feel that we are a pioneer here. But one thing that no one is doing in the same way as we are doing is the thing that I have told you already, the combination of open world and survival horror. I think this is something very, very special about us, and how big is the arsenal of options players can choose in any given situation. I think that freedom is something very special about our game.
And just a big picture question for you here. I know Techland has announced that it, you know, has a new IP in development, and what I really want to know is not looking for details on the new IP, but more as you think about looking outside of the Dying Light franchise. What does this franchise, what does the Beast say about Techland as it exists today? How does Dying Light the Beast reflect outwards your ambitions in the future?
So I think when we were releasing Dying Light 1, we were this underdog studio that no one expected to do such a kick-ass game as Dying Light was. And Dying Light really was a kick-ass game, though you could say that it wasn't the most polished, the most kind of AAA high-budget game. We made an attempt on making this kind of like the highest budget AAA game with Dying Light to Stay Human. And actually, maybe we made some missteps. Maybe we just wanted the game to be a little bit too accessible, a little bit too I think we sacrificed part of the Dying Light DNA for the accessibility of Dying Light to Stay Human experience. The game was a commercial success, but our fans were telling us that's not it. That's not really what made you so special. So I think with this one, we want to deliver both. We want to deliver the AAA quality, but at the same time, we want to deliver basically proof that our mojo is not gone, that our mojo is still there, and we know what makes Dying Light Dying Light. And if players will say, wow, this feels like Dying Light 1 and it looks so amazing, it's such a great, such a polished game, then I think we'll be very, very happy. I would like to invite you and encourage you to play Dying Light the Beast when it launches on August 22nd on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. And really, it's the best Dying Light game we have ever made.